All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to be back with my, I suppose now annual tier list of the, not tier list, but this bracket prediction of the 2024 to 2025 NFL playoffs with who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. This will account for seeding. I'll change everything as it needs to go. Right now, the Detroit Lions are currently beating the shit out of the Minnesota Vikings. So here we are. If for some reason the Vikings somehow win that game, then you won't see this recording at all, obviously. But let's be honest, I think we see how that's going to go. I was correct about last time, by the way, when Buffalo came back to beat Miami. But this time, I don't think any comebacks going to happen. So we had the first round buys, Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. Chiefs have an elite defense as per usual, and their offense has really started to pick up in the last 3 games where the starters played. They just got the fuck beaten out of them by the Broncos, but that was just their practice squad players essentially and all their backups. So, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really account in anything, especially momentum or like how good they are as a team. So, it is what it is. We'll start off with the AFC side. Starting with the 2nd seed Buffalo Bills playing against the 7th seeded Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos have a great defense. They have a good O-line. And Bo Nix has been playing better football, especially compared to the beginning of the season, that little rough hump that he had. But with that being said, Buffalo is just like the better team. I could see the Broncos winning because for some reason Josh Allen against rookie quarterbacks and Sean McDermott against the Broncos, I don't know. It's very possible they could be fucking embarrassed because of how good the defense is and how not good the Bills' defense is, to say the least. But let's be honest here, they just have the better weapons. They have Josh Allen, who's one of the 5 quarterbacks, maybe 6 quarterbacks now that can absolutely carry a team on his back if he needs to. And that trait is really rare in the NFL, and it's always been very rare in the NFL. And Josh Allen's one of those people. He did struggle against the Ravens and the Texans, obviously, as well as the Patriots early on, and they had pretty strong defenses. But I really don't see Bo Nix winning a playoff game. It'd be nice, and it's definitely possible, but I just don't see it happening. And since Buffalo's the 2nd seed, they're going to be placed right here, because they can't go against Kansas City Chiefs in that game. Next up, the 3rd seeded Baltimore Ravens against the 6th seeded Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers started off hot, 10-3, and they lost their last 4 games just to drop to 10-7, and they're on a downward trajectory, just like they were in 2020 and 2018 and 2017. I mean, we all see where this is going. Another year and another time the Steelers are just not playing up to snuff in the playoffs, and unfortunately, that's bound to happen again. They're, especially compared to Baltimore, they're not as good of a team. Baltimore has the better weapons. George Pickens actually sucks, and I'm glad people are finally starting to realize that. And even though Baltimore's pass defense is not great, what are the Steelers going to do on passing defense? And their run game isn't good enough to go against that. So, Baltimore gonna be placed right here because the Bills would have to go against Baltimore if they win. And next up is the 4th seeded Houston Texans versus the 5th seeded Los Angeles Chargers. It's going to be a wash. The Texans are a fucking terrible team and only won their division with a 10-7 record by virtue of being in the AFC South. CJ Stroud is having a sophomore slump. That offense is horrendous. Their defense has been carrying them, but the Chargers also have a really good defense, and they just have better weapons on offense outside of the O-line, which is actually atrocious. So there you have it. I don't see this game being close. I don't see this game being close. I feel like Bills and Broncos would be the closest game out of the first 3 for this wild card set. Up next is the 2nd seeded Philadelphia Eagles against the 7th seeded. Well, we're going on to the NFC, I should say. 2nd seeded Philadelphia Eagles versus 7th seeded Green Bay Packers. Now, while it would be extremely funny for the Packers to get their revenge against the Eagles, as well as embarrass another NFC East team in the playoffs, as the 7th seed, I don't think it's going to happen. Eagles have a very tightly constructed roster. Eagles are going to have to be down here because they're the 2nd seed. They have a very tightly constructed roster. Defense is really good. Saquon Barkley should be MVP. He's not going to win it, though, because it's a quarterback award, essentially. But Saquon Barkley should absolutely be MVP. He's been carrying the team on his back. Quarterback play is actually really good to decent because their O-line is spectacular. They have great weapons. And they have a great secondary as well. So, I mean, and while I do think the Eagles are bordering on a bit of fraudulence, they're still a really good team. And I think to deny otherwise is just being stupid. Next up, the third-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the sixth-seeded Washington Commanders. I don't think it's going to be any surprise Jaden Daniels is going to come in and whoop ass. Rookie of the year, and realistically speaking, should be MVP because the Washington Commanders are the best team in football. And last but not least, we have the fourth-seeded Los Angeles Chargers against the fifth-seeded Minnesota Vikings. Despite what's happening tonight, I do believe that the Vikings will actually pull through and beat the Rams because the Rams are not a good team. They can get it going on offense sometimes, but not against good defenses. And while, yeah, the Vikings have a terrible pass defense, they also have a lot of interceptions. And, I just feel like a costly injury to either Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp's just gonna derail the game. And the Rams are just not a good team, bro. They're just not a good team. The Vikings are, and it just so happens that the Lions are simply better. So we're actually gonna get a rematch here, which is funny. It may be the Lions could get a full season sweep of the Vikings. That would also be pretty funny. We have 2 divisional inter matchups here. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Next up, the first-seeded Kansas City Chiefs against the fifth-seeded Chargers. Shouldn't really be a surprise. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. Elite defense. Andy Reid and the offense in general really gets it going in the playoffs, especially compared to other teams. And it's clear that they know how to finish off games. And they've just been not playing down the competition, but have been withholding their true power, so to speak. It's exactly what happened last year, in spite of the Chiefs' offense being very difficult to watch. It also happened in 2022, I believe. Yeah, 2022 and 2020, to be honest. Making the Super Bowl in 2022 and 2020, it just looked really rough. But again, just elite defense, better defense of the Chargers, and Chargers have a bad O-line, so I don't think Herbert's going to be able to do anything, really. Next up is the second-seeded Buffalo Bills against the third-seeded Baltimore Ravens. To be honest with you, this is a very tough matchup because Ravens have a bad pass defense. Josh Allen is very good at passing, and he's also a polar bear, so he's amazing at running. Ravens have more weapons on offense, but the Bills' defense, and as well as the fact that the Bills' defense is just very porous, it's really not that good, highly suspect. So I honestly do believe that the Ravens will win this game. It sucks since I really like Josh Allen. I'm a Bills apologist, not a Bills fan, but only because I like Josh Allen. But I hope the Bills win, but I don't see it happening. So we're gonna get an AFC Championship rematch from last year, and we'll see what I predict there. Next up is the first-seeded Detroit Lions against the fifth-seeded Minnesota Vikings. The Lions have shown that they're just a better team than the Vikings throughout the season. Just in their head-to-head contests, it's just kind of been a wash, essentially. But the Vikings, I do believe the Vikings have a chance if they just get it together. But honest to God, I just don't see a world where the Vikings beat the Lions. If they do, that'd be cool. That'd be shocking. And it would continue Minnesota's trend of appearing in every single conference championship game since the 70s. Ever since the merger happened, which would be really funny. Actually, even since the 60s, technically. But, I just mean conference championship game. So, it'd be nice. But I even with Detroit's fucked up defense, they're beating the Vikings as they've shown tonight. Eagles versus Washington. We're going to beat the fuck out of that clown Jalen Hurts. You already know how it is. Honest to God, I hope we destroy Saquon Barkley's ACLs, both of them. Shoot him in the fucking kneecaps, and Jalen Hurts is going to suffer another concussion because he's an idiot. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the first-seeded Kansas City Chiefs versus the third-seeded Baltimore Ravens. Now, it's going to be a very good matchup because this is going to be a rematch of Week 1, where the Chiefs barely, and I mean barely, beat the Ravens, where Lamar thoroughly outplayed Mahomes, and just on a throw per throw basis, because obviously quarterbacks are going against each other. But Lamar played better at quarterbacking than Mahomes did. Unfortunately for that game, again, Ravens pass defense really bad. Run defense really good, but they're not going to be handing it off to Isaiah Pacheco that much, I don't think. And Patrick Mahomes can scramble and he can make those plays. And despite the fact that the Ravens undoubtedly have more on offense, it's just I don't know, dude. I just feel like that Chiefs defense is way too much to overcome. It really is. So I'm gonna say it. I think the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl in hopes for a three-peat. Next up, we have the first seeded Detroit Lions versus the fifth seeded Washington Commanders. I mean, let's be honest here. Our defense is top 10 in the league. Lions have a trash defense, and Jaden Daniels can carry his team, and not only to the Super Bowl, but also win the Super Bowl. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is my Super Bowl predictions. Washington Commanders will win the Super Bowl. Okay, I've done enough trolling. I'm not Tim the Tap Man here. I'm not nearly as funny as he is, but let's actually go ahead and be a bit serious here for a second. Realistically, I do think that the Buccaneers are beating Washington. Because Baker Mayfield's a demon in the wild card round. It's home field advantage. And the Bucs offense is just really freaking good, especially now that everybody is back on firing on all cylinders, except for Chris Godwin, I believe. But even then, they just have an amazing offense, and their defense can hold if needed. And Jaden Daniels did not look great in Week 18 against backup players on what's it called on Dallas' side. It's unfortunate, but I mean, as a Commanders fan, it pains me to say, but I don't believe that we'll make it past the wild card round. I was really hoping the Rams would win so we could play them and make it to the divisional round at least, but I don't think it's going to happen. And in that sense, I don't know who's going to win between Tampa Bay or Philly. Philly's the better, well-rounded team. Let me look up Tampa Bay's run defense. Well, Tampa Bay's already beaten Philly. And Philly hasn't been looking great these past couple of weeks. And I'm trying to be as fair as possible, despite them being a division rival. They haven't been looking great the past couple of weeks, but again, they are a very, 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 very loaded roster. Honestly, I don't know, because it's gonna be at Lincoln Field, so I think the Eagles squeak away with it, to be honest. And then for the NFC Championship game, I mean, I think it's a wash, right? I feel like it's a wash for the Lions against the Eagles. I would love the Eagles to get blown out in one of the wild card game, in the wild card game or any other game in the playoffs, for that matter. But I think it's a wash just with how beat up Detroit's defense is, dude. And the Eagles have just have the better roster in terms of offense as well. There's nothing the Lions do better than the Eagles, I guess, other than trick plays, which, I mean, I guess, Kansas City Chiefs do in the playoffs, but I feel like the Lions are going to get a bit too tricky, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel. And then we get a Super Bowl rematch, Super Bowl 57 rematch. And the last time we had a Super Bowl rematch was last year, where the Chiefs went 2-0 against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And, I feel like this will be a very close game. Both have great defenses. Both have great... Eagles have the better offense. But the thing is that the Chiefs' defense, from just using the eye test, they look a lot better, despite Philly, I believe, ranking higher than them. But Philly's run game is unmatched. And I feel like now that Philly actually has a run game, instead of relying on garbage-ass DeAndre Swift with Saquon Barkley, assuming he doesn't get injured, which I don't think he will, this is not taking injuries into account, I obviously said, mistimed injury, here and there, but it's also, I don't think the Rams are going to beat the Vikings regardless. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. This is a close matchup, but last time the three-peat, I don't want to bet against the Chiefs. I really don't. But and it really pains for me to say this. that I think Philadelphia will be the spoiler. I think they will be. I truly think they will be. This will be a very, very rough football game to watch. It's going to be nothing but defense. Sure, offense, will score a bit of points, but it'll be like, like 18 to like 14 or something. Like, I don't know, man. This is a close matchup, and I don't want to doubt the Chiefs because you doubt the Chiefs, they just come back and they win it. But like honestly, being so blatantly honest here, I do believe that the Philadelphia Eagles will unfortunately win the Super Bowl, get their second title, and it sucks for me to say, but I mean there's no team as good as Philadelphia right now. This is assuming Jalen Hurts is recovered from his concussion. I'm 99.9% sure he will be. So there it is. These are my Super Bowl predictions, my playoff / Super Bowl predictions. Trying to be as unbiased as possible. And that's why it just really sucks to say that I think Philly will win the Super Bowl, but it is what it is. I also said that the Cowboys make the NFC Championship game last year, and we saw what happened. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully it'll be a Bills Buccaneers Super Bowl because I'm not trying to see Washington get blown out. Okay, let's be honest here. But hey, Washington does win the Super Bowl, I will be the most annoying motherfucker on planet Earth. But it's not happening. Let's be realistic. It's not happening. But regardless, try to be as unbiased as possible. Try to use facts for my logic, as well as just patterns that we've seen from each of the teams on this list. And yeah, that's going to be about it for this video. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I can't wait to see the influx of these predictions here for the playoffs. Well, with that being said, folks, I'm Anything Works, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.